My name is Sophia Miller, and for 15 years, I was the invisible brain behind one of the biggest tech empires in the United States. Every revolutionary algorithm, every brilliant strategy, every inspiring word that turned my husband into a business icon, all my creation. I built an empire in the shadows while he basked in the spotlight. But last night, I accidentally discovered something that changed everything. After using my talent for a decade and a half, he plans to discard me like an obsolete component. What he doesn't know is that for the first time, I've altered a few words in the speech I wrote for him. And when those words leave his mouth tomorrow, in front of the world's biggest investors, well, let's just say it'll be the last speech of mine he'll read without realizing it. Want to know how to destroy an empire with just one paragraph? I can show you. It's 3:40 a.m., and I'm hunched over my desk, my third coffee cooling beside the keyboard. My eyes burn, but I need to finish the perfect speech Richard will deliver tomorrow at the Tech Innovator of the Year Awards. Funny how no one imagines that every inspiring word out of my husband's mouth was actually carefully crafted by me during late nights like this. 15 years of marriage, 15 years writing his success story. Have you ever felt like your talent is a light shining through someone else? I hear footsteps in the hall and quickly save the file. Richard appears at the door, hair messy, expression sleepy. Still awake? I need that speech ready for tomorrow. I smile as I print the pages. He doesn't even glance at the content, just takes the sheets, kisses my forehead distractedly and says, "You're my good luck charm, Sophia." Then he leaves, never questioning a single word I wrote. Blind trust in me has always been his superpower, or perhaps his greatest weakness. I can't tell if I feel flattered or invisible. "You look like a zombie," Danielle says, placing a generous croissant on my plate. We're at our monthly breakfast at the Morning Brew, that charming cafe in downtown Palo Alto that's always packed by 9 a.m. Danielle is the only person who knows my secret, that behind Sterling Industries there's an invisible architect named Sophia. "Are the rumors true?" she asks, leaning over the table. "They say you're about to close the biggest deal in the company's history." I take a sip of my coffee before answering, watching the street through the window. Merger with a Japanese tech giant, billions. And guess who spent the last 6 months structuring every detail while the visionary genius played golf with investors? Danielle squeezes my hand and says something that keeps replaying in my head. "You know, Sophia, the business world celebrates who's on stage, but rarely recognizes who writes the script. One day, true talent always finds its own stage." I smile, but an uneasy question hangs in the air. What if that one day never comes? "Sophia, I need you to handle the server crisis in Asia now." Richard's voice echoes through the office as I juggle 3 calls, reorganize his meeting schedule, and try to finalize the proposal for the investment committee. People walk past me as if I'm invisible, just the founder's wife, despite my Harvard MBA and being the one who actually solves every problem. Richard smiles for the cameras in the lobby, his face on magazine covers. The charismatic CEO who transformed a small startup into a tech conglomerate in just 15 years. No one sees the nights I spent creating algorithms, the expansion strategies I sketched on napkins in our old apartment, the crises I averted before they even happened. We're like an iceberg. Richard is the glittering tip everyone admires. I am the massive, submerged foundation that supports everything. Sometimes I wonder how long an iceberg can remain invisible before causing a disaster, or simply melting away. Because something tells me this dynamic is about to reach its breaking point. It was a stupid mistake. Richard would never leave important documents on the table. But Vanessa, the new director of innovation hired 8 months ago, apparently isn't as careful. I walked into the conference room to drop off financial reports when I saw the open folder. Massive transfer of shares to an offshore holding in the Cayman Islands. Final beneficiary? Richard Sterling. Company name? New Beginnings, LLC. How poetic. My heart raced as my eyes scanned the documents. This wasn't part of any strategy I knew. On the way back to my office, my phone vibrates. Confirmation message from the premium travel agency we always use. Your exclusive reservation at the Azure Dreams Resort in the Maldives is confirmed, Mr. Sterling. Overwater suite for 10 days, starting after the Innovator of the Year ceremony. One detail, it wasn't our shared family email, but one I'd never seen before. And I definitely wasn't the second person on that paradise booking. Have you ever felt your stomach drop as if you're in free fall? That's exactly how I feel right now. It was past 8 p.m. when I returned to the office for my laptop. The floor was silent and dark, or at least it should have been. A sliver of light escaped from the private conference room, the one Richard uses for strategic talks. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I swear. But then I heard Vanessa's laugh, followed by a tone of voice Richard only uses when he's truly excited about something. I approached silently, as if my body moved on its own. Sophia doesn't suspect a thing. Richard's voice sounded confident, almost arrogant. She's too busy writing my speech for the award. After the merger announcement, we'll be free to start over. Everything's planned. Transfers complete. Trip booked. Divorce papers ready. Vanessa whispered something I couldn't understand, followed by sounds I understood all too well. I stood paralyzed, hand covering my mouth to stifle any noise. 15 years building an empire, and I was about to be discarded like a faulty component. Has anyone ever been stabbed in the back while holding the knife for the stabber? Memories flooded me like a tsunami as I drove aimlessly through the rainy streets of the peninsula. That night, Richard and I, 15 years ago, turning my parents' garage into our first office. Me coding until dawn while he slept on the old couch. My predictive analysis algorithms that revolutionized the market. The international expansion strategy that tripled our market value in 2 years. Our struggles, our dreams, our empire. My empire too, right? Or was it always just his? I parked in front of our mansion in Atherton and sat in the car for an hour, watching the rain stream down the windshield as silent tears streamed down my face. On my laptop, I opened an almost forgotten folder. Social Impact, the tech platform. Project I dreamed of developing for years, always postponed because it wasn't a strategic priority. It was my personal project, my mark, my vision. Everything Richard always said wasn't worth pursuing. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd never considered myself a priority. Until now. Do you ever realize how sometimes we need to lose everything to finally find our voice? Without concrete proof? Of your intellectual contribution, Ms. Miller, you'll only receive the standard division of assets established in your prenuptial agreement. The lawyer adjusted his glasses as he handed me another paper to sign. The discreet consultation cost me $5,000 and confirmed my worst fear. Legally, I was just the wife, not the co-creator of the empire. I returned home, my mind buzzing with possibilities. Leak everything to the press? Confront him publicly? Sabotage the merger? Each scenario seemed simultaneously tempting and self-destructive. I ended up driving to Golden Gate Park, our favorite spot when we were young and full of dreams. Sitting on a bench, I called Helen, my old mentor, and the first woman to lead a unicorn startup in the valley. Revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, Sophia, she said in her calm voice. But strategy? Strategy is turning poison into an antidote. Think like a businesswoman, not a betrayed wife. Her words awakened something within me. What kind of chess do you play when your opponent doesn't even imagine you've figured out the rules of the game? What if I could flip the board without him noticing until it was too late? I returned to the speech like one returns to the scene of a crime. Every word I had written for Richard glowed on the screen with a new light. A bitter smile formed on my lips as I inserted a seemingly innocent paragraph between the lines of gratitude and corporate vision. Our philosophy has always been absolute transparency, from our financial structuring to recent offshore investments. ensuring every strategic move reflects our fundamental values of integrity. This was followed by specific, but vague sounding to a casual listener, figures, dates, and references that would seem like just inspiring details to the general public. To lay people, it was just another eloquent passage about business values. To investors, financial analysts, and especially to the meticulous Japanese executives involved in the merger, they were glaring red flags about financial inconsistencies I knew existed. Richard would never read the speech beforehand. He hadn't. In 15 years. Why would he start now? He trusted me blindly, and that would be his downfall. The same words that made him an icon would now be a time bomb on his lips. Ever felt that confusing mix of pain and satisfaction? As if something is dying and being born inside you at the same time? The sun was rising when I finished transferring key documents to a secure server. Emails, contracts, prototypes, evidence of my intellectual contribution, all carefully cataloged and protected with passwords only I knew. I opened the airline app and bought a ticket to Milan, leaving that very night. My heart pounded as if I were committing a crime, but in reality, for the first time, I was just claiming what was rightfully mine, my freedom, my creation. I left a note on Richard's desk along with the printed speech. Going to prepare everything. For our celebration in Italy after the award. As always, I've left everything organized. Your speech is ready on your desk. It was true. In a way, I really would be in Italy, preparing a new future, and I really had left everything organized. Just not in the way he expected. As I closed the door of our mansion, perhaps for the last time, a question echoed in my mind. How could someone who knew me so well never realize I wasn't just a shadow, but a force ready to emerge into the light? Get ready, Richard. The real show is just beginning. The winding road leading to the small estate outside Montepulciano in Tuscany feels like entering another world, another life, another Sophia. The taxi stops in front of a restored stone farmhouse, vineyards stretching over the hills as far as the eye can see. Tech Vino, says the discreet sign at the entrance. My secret experiment for the past 3 years. My plan B, which Richard always called an expensive and useless hobby. My fingers tremble as I type in the access code. Did Marco keep everything running as we agreed in our monthly video calls? The door opens, and I'm greeted by the scent of wood, wine, and innovation. On the ancient stone walls, high-definition screens display real-time graphics, soil analysis, climate forecasts for the next 3 months, AI-monitored fermentation. Marco appears, smiling, holding a tablet. Welcome to your vineyard of the future, Sophia. Following your guidelines, we've expanded to another 30 hectares, and we already have 5 local producers using our technology. My eyes fill with tears. While I was writing speeches for Richard to win awards in San Francisco, my insignificant little project was quietly thriving on the other side of the ocean. Ever wondered what you could have created if you'd believed in yourself sooner? Remember that harvest prediction algorithm you sent me last year? Marco asks as we walk among the vines, the Tuscan sun bathing his tanned face as he gestures excitedly. The traditional winemakers laughed when we implemented it, but now we have the most accurate forecast in the region. And that smart irrigation system Richard said was too small to be worth the investment? It reduced our water consumption by 62%, and 3 neighboring vineyards have already bought the license. I watch this 38-year-old man, with his calloused farmer's hands and brilliant engineer's mind, speak passionately about every idea of mine he turned into reality. I met Marco at a tech conference in Milan 4 years ago. He was presenting a sustainable agriculture project. I was escaping the boring cocktail party where Richard was, as always, shining. Our connection was immediate. 2 curious minds, fascinated by innovation with purpose. While your husband was building an empire, thinking only of the next quarter, he says, looking into my eyes, we built something that can last for generations. The difference is stark. Marco sees Sophia, not someone's shadow. And you, do you really see when you look at yourself? This part about visionary leadership always plays well with the audience. Sophia has a talent for these things. Richard smiles, rehearsing lines from the speech in front of the dressing room mirror. His impeccable tuxedo, perfectly styled hair, the smile practiced thousands of times. The man the tech world sees as a business genius is about to announce the biggest tech merger in the country's history without ever having fully read the text he's about to present. Arrogance was always his blind spot. He never felt the need to review my work. Vanessa enters the dressing room, stunning in her red dress, and closes the door. Are you sure the speech is appropriate for the merger announcement? Don't you want to take a final look? She seems genuinely concerned. Richard laughs, that confident laugh that so enchanted me at the beginning of our relationship. Sophia's been writing my speeches for 15 years. She has no idea about our plans. Trust me, it'll be perfect as always. He kisses Vanessa quickly, his future partner in life and business, not realizing that the invisible architect of his success has just designed his downfall. Ever seen someone so confident walking towards a cliff? The Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco is unrecognizable. Flowers, lights, red carpet, and the cream of the American business world in their black tie best. Photographers jostle to capture the arrival of the Japanese delegation from Takayama Corp., led by the austere Mr. Ito, known for his meticulousness in analyzing every detail of a deal. Reporters from the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Bloomberg interview guests, seeking clues about the big announcement Richard will make in his award acceptance speech. The anticipation is palpable. The financial market holds its breath, awaiting official confirmation of the billion-dollar merger. From my suite at the Villa Medici in Rome, I watch everything on the live stream. Marco has brought a bottle of our first premium wine produced with the technology I developed. Are you really going to watch? He asks, concern in his eyes. I nod. 15 years of being invisible. Now I want to witness the moment the curtains fall. On screen, I see technicians adjusting the teleprompter with the speech I wrote. The same words that for years built the myth of Richard Sterling now carry a secret code ready to detonate. It's strange. I feel simultaneously guilty and justified, pained and liberated. Does that make me a terrible person or just human? Early congratulations on the deal of the century. A gray-haired American investor claps Richard on the back as champagne flutes circulate. Sterling Industries stock has already risen 12% on merger rumors alone. Richard smiles, that perfect magazine cover smile, and poses for the photographers. He's a master of public performance. Always has been. Beneath the charm, I know his thoughts are on the Maldives trip, the new beginning, the woman in the red dress waiting backstage. In the dressing room, Richard quickly types on his phone before being called to the stage. The message is for Vanessa. Tonight I change my life. Tomorrow we start divorce proceedings. He pockets the phone, adjusts his tie, and walks confidently to the stage as the presenter announces his name. The audience gives a standing ovation. The lights blaze. The teleprompter is ready with every word I wrote, including those carefully poisoned ones. In my room in Italy, I hold my breath as I raise my wine glass in a silent toast. Richard never suspected that his greatest strength, trusting me blindly, would also be his greatest vulnerability. And now, the show is about to begin. Ever wondered what it would be like to watch something you built yourself collapse? Shall we watch the show? Marco has organized a small gathering in Tech Vino's co-working space, turning the meeting room into a sort of makeshift cinema. About 10 young local entrepreneurs are there, all curious about the American boss who appeared out of nowhere. No one there has any idea of the real drama about to unfold. On the big screen, the Tech Innovator of the Year ceremony begins with typical corporate pomp: orchestral music, blue lights, a host talking about innovation and disruption. My heart pounds as Richard walks onto the stage, smiling and confident, as ever. The audience of executives and investors enthusiastically applauds the darling of the financial market, the visionary genius. He shakes the presenter's hand, receives the crystal trophy, and positions himself at the lectern. The teleprompter starts rolling with the words I spent nights writing. The same words that for 15 years turned Richard into an icon. He's never questioned a single comma I've written for him in all this time, I think to myself. Why would he question it now? Ever had that feeling of watching a slow-motion accident, unable to look away? True entrepreneurship isn't about individuals, but about connections. Richard's voice flows melodiously through the speakers as he reads each word, with the confidence of someone who truly believes what he's saying. The first parts of the speech are exactly what everyone expects: inspiring, charismatic, perfectly aligned with his public image. Some executives in the audience nod in approval. The Japanese investors in the front row maintain impassive expressions, typical of them. I take a sip of wine, feeling the tension build inside me as he approaches the strategically altered paragraph. Marco must have noticed something in my expression. "Everything okay?" he whispers, lightly touching my arm. I can't answer. On screen, Richard turns the virtual page and begins the part about corporate transparency. My fingers grip the wine glass so tightly I'm afraid it will break. It's like being at the top of a roller coaster, that exact moment before the free fall. My breath stops. The moment has arrived. Ever wondered what the voice of truth sounds like when it finally escapes through the lips of a lie? Our philosophy has always been absolute transparency. From our financial structuring to recent offshore investments, ensuring every strategic move reflects our fundamental values of integrity. Richard utters the fateful words with the same contagious enthusiasm as always, not realizing what he has just revealed. He continues fluently, mentioning specific values and transactions, numbers that coincide exactly with the secret transfers I discovered. The bomb has been planted and has exploded. A subtle movement starts in the audience. An executive leans over to whisper to another. One of the Japanese delegates frowns and quickly consults his tablet. A financial journalist in the third row begins typing frantically on his phone. Richard, oblivious to all this, continues his triumphant speech, officially announcing the merger that will transform the global market. The contrast is surreal. He has never looked so confident as his world begins to silently crumble. In Italy, I watch the first notifications pop up on my phone. Sterling Industries shares in sudden freefall. Financial inconsistencies raise doubts about merger. A bitter smile forms on my lips. Revenge truly is a dish best served cold, preferably with a good Italian wine, and together, we will build a future where technology and humanity walk hand in hand. Richard ends his speech with this cliché I wrote in a hurry, receiving polite but noticeably less enthusiastic applause than usual. Something is wrong, and he can sense it. That sixth sense experienced speakers develop. Some guests are already looking at their phones instead of the stage. The Japanese investors are huddled in a tight circle, speaking quickly in their native language. My phone won't stop vibrating. Messages from Danielle. What's happening? The market is going crazy. Notifications from my investment app. Trading. Of Sterling Industries stock temporarily suspended after 17% drop. Articles being published in real time. CEO accidentally reveals questionable offshore operations during awards ceremony. A tech journalist I've known for years sends me a direct message. Sophia, did you know about this? Call me ASAP. The controlled chaos is spreading exactly as I planned. It's frightening to realize how a few strategically placed words can topple an empire. Does this make me a villain, or just someone seeking balance in an unfair game? Richard's confident smile finally wavers as he steps down from the stage and is immediately surrounded by advisors, lawyers, and executives with alarmed expressions. "What the hell was that?" the chief legal officer whispers furiously, showing him a phone screen where headlines about possible financial irregularities are already multiplying. Richard looks genuinely confused, the expression of a man who still doesn't understand he's just shot himself in the foot. "What are you talking about? I just read the speech that—" And then I see the exact moment it dawns on him. His eyes widen, his face pales, comprehension hitting him like a freight train. "Sophia," he mutters, finally realizing the perfect trap. He grabs his phone and starts calling me frantically. Once, twice, 6 times. Desperate messages. "What did you do?" "Answer the phone. We need to talk now. You're ruining everything." I watch it all from a distance, a strange feeling of power and melancholy mixing in my chest. 15 years writing every word he said, and I finally wrote the ones that truly mattered, the ones that told the truth. Ever tasted the bittersweetness of justice? "There was a technical error with the teleprompter," Richard tries to explain frantically to a group of journalists who have cornered him in the lobby. "I didn't mean to say that about the offshore structures. It was a redaction mistake." His usually confident voice now falters. He's sweating, tie askew, hair disheveled, the perfect image of a man in freefall. In the background, I see Vanessa, watching with growing horror, probably realizing her paradise future in the Maldives has just evaporated. Sources confirm Japanese investors have formally suspended merger negotiations pending a full investigation into Sterling Industries' finances. The notification appears on my phone as Marco opens a second bottle of wine. "To your freedom," he toasts, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and concern. I turn off my phone after the 15th desperate call from Richard. For 15 years I was his voice, his mind, his shadow. Now it's time to find my own light. Tomorrow there will be consequences to face, decisions to make, an empire in flames to consider. But tonight is just for me, for Sophia. It's strange how freedom can be born from the ashes of betrayal, don't you think? We're live from Sterling Industries headquarters, where CEO Richard Sterling has called an emergency press conference following last night's revealing, some would say disastrous, statements. The CNN reporter can barely contain her excitement at the corporate scandal of the year. I watch the broadcast on my laptop while sipping an espresso on Tech Vino's veranda. The Tuscan sun seems particularly bright this morning, as if celebrating this new beginning with me. Richard appears on the makeshift stage, tieless, dark circles under his eyes, a man who clearly hasn't slept. For the first time in 15 years, he doesn't have a speech prepared by me, and it's painfully obvious. He stammers, contradicts himself, sweats nervously. The offshore operations mentioned were standard market procedures, perfectly legal. But then, cornered by increasingly incisive questions from journalists who smell blood in the water, I see something I never imagined witnessing. Richard Sterling, the great CEO, breaks. The truth is, Sophia always wrote every word. She was the brains behind everything, from the beginning. The silence that follows is deafening. My phone starts ringing nonstop. Journalists, former colleagues, investors. Everyone wants to talk to the woman who was always in the shadows. Interesting how sometimes we need to lose everything to finally be seen, isn't it? "Ms. Miller, this is Setsuko Yamoto, representing the board of Takayama Corp." The call I never expected arrives at 2 p.m. Italian time. "Following recent events, our board would like to speak directly with you, bypassing intermediaries." My heart races. The Japanese, known for their aversion to scandals and instability, are seeking me out. I thought the merger would be definitively dead by now. What comes next leaves me literally speechless. "We've analyzed your academic record, your career trajectory, and finally connected all the dots regarding who truly created the algorithms that make Sterling Industries so valuable. Our proposal is simple: officially take over as CEO to manage the crisis and salvage the merger. The board of directors has already approved unanimously. She pauses, then adds, obviously, this would imply a complete restructuring of leadership, starting with Richard's removal to a non-executive role. The irony is almost poetic. The invisible woman, now invited to take center stage. The talent that always operated in the shadows, now called to lead in broad daylight. But the question that won't leave my mind is, do I really want to go back and fix what was broken? Or would I rather build something entirely new my way? Night falls in Tuscany as I walk among the vineyards, the Japanese proposal weighing on my mind. Marco has gathered the entire Tech Vino team at the main winery, engineers, enologists, data scientists, all looking at me with expectation. If you accept the proposal, we could integrate our technology into the larger conglomerate, suggests Julia, our AI specialist. Imagine the impact we could have globally, not just in small Italian vineyards. I look at these brilliant people who believed in my vision when no one else did. I think of the empire I helped build, now on the verge of collapse, of the hundreds of employees who are not to blame for Richard's mistakes, of the social impact platform I always dreamed of developing. My phone vibrates. It's Helen, my old mentor. Remember, Sophia, revenge is a dish best served once. Building something significant is a banquet that lasts a lifetime. Perhaps this is the real test. To overcome the urge to just destroy and embrace the more difficult challenge of rebuilding, but this time on my terms. Have you ever wondered if it's possible to turn a personal tragedy into a collective triumph? The new CEO of Sterling Industries will arrive in 5 minutes. The buzz fills the headquarters lobby as employees crowd around, trying to glimpse the woman who was always there, but whom no one truly saw. When the elevator doors open, I feel all eyes on me. I'm not wearing high heels or a power suit. I opted for a simple, comfortable, authentic dress. I no longer need to conform to the image Richard created. I am Sophia Miller, no longer someone's shadow but my own light. The boardroom is packed, the entire board of directors, key investors, the Japanese delegation. Where I once would have sat in a corner taking notes, I now occupy the head of the table. There's no teleprompter, no prepared speech. For the first time, I speak with my own voice. For 15 years, we built an empire based on innovative technology but outdated values. Today, we begin a new chapter. I present my vision for restructuring, new projects, and crucially, the integration of the social impact platform Richard always rejected. The words flow with a confidence I didn't even know I possessed. Was it always there, hidden under layers of self-doubt and self-imposed invisibility? We need to rethink the purpose of the technology we create. My voice echoes through the new collaborative innovation space that was once Richard's ostentatious office. The engineers exchange surprised, curious glances. In just 3 months, we've turned the conglomerate upside down. The Tech for Social Impact division has gone from a dream to the company's flagship initiative. Tech Vino's algorithms have been adapted to optimize natural resources in underserved communities. Even the traditionally conservative Japanese investors seem delighted with the new direction. Richard watches everything from afar, reduced to a brand ambassador role with no real decision-making power. Our paths rarely cross in the hallways, but when they do, I see a different man, humbler, perhaps even regretful. As for Vanessa, she resigned the week after the scandal. Part of me pities them. Another part understands that every choice has consequences. The most surprising thing is how positively the market responded to the change. Authenticity is the new corporate luxury, an analyst from the Financial Times wrote. And perhaps it's true. In a world of masks and lies, simply being real has become our greatest differentiator. What would the corporate world be like if everyone could show their true essence? You've requested this meeting for months. Here I am. Richard enters the private conference room where I await with our respective lawyers to finalize the divorce terms. He looks like he's aged 10 years in just 6 months. The man who was once the personification of confidence can now barely look me in the eye. The documents are all prepared: division of assets, company shares, financial agreements, all much fairer than what he had planned for me that night. I overheard his conversation with Vanessa. When the lawyers leave us alone for a few minutes, the conversation we've avoided for so long finally happens. "Why didn't you confront me directly?" he asks, his voice almost a whisper. "Why did you choose to humiliate me publicly?" I look at this man I loved, with whom I built an empire, and feel a strange mixture of compassion and detachment. "Because you never really listened when I spoke, Richard. You only ever paid attention when I wrote words for you to say." He nods slowly, understanding finally dawning. "You always wrote my words. Now I have none to defend myself." I sign the final document and stand up, feeling the weight of 15 years dissipating. The difference is, now I write my own story. Ever thought about how some endings can also be magnificent beginnings? Sophia Miller transforms tech market with human-centered approach. I look at the cover of Forbes with a mixture of pride and disbelief, my face gracing the same magazine that so often featured Richard. The photographer perfectly captured what I wanted to convey. Not the typical executive with crossed arms and a stern gaze, but a woman smiling naturally among collaborators. My new office has a view of both San Francisco and, via a permanent video link, the vineyards of Tuscany. It's been a year since that fateful night at the Tech Innovator of the Year Awards. A year since I stepped out of the shadows. The conglomerate, now renamed Nexus Collective, operates with headquarters in San Francisco and Italy, exactly as I dreamed. The Tech for Social Impact platform has already benefited over 200,000 people in vulnerable communities. The voice behind the throne. That's how the journalist described me in the main article. The irony makes me smile. Today, my voice echoes in boardrooms, international conferences, and more importantly, inspires other women to find their own voices. Have you ever realized how sometimes we need to lose our fear of the echo to finally discover what our voice truly sounds like? The Sophia Fund is now open for applications, I announce enthusiastically in a video conference with investors. My latest creation is a venture capital fund exclusively for women in tech, especially those with ideas rejected by traditional investors. Half the profits from Tech Vino, now a Harvard Business School case study, finance this project. The transformation of the small experimental vineyard into a global model of sustainable innovation still seems surreal at times. What surprised me was the news about Richard. After months of seclusion, he re-emerged completely reinvented as a spokesperson for social causes, using his communication skills, now with his own words, to raise funds for NGOs. They say adversity reveals our true character, but perhaps it can also reveal a new character, a better version of ourselves. His Foundation for Tech Education in Underserved Communities has been doing remarkable work. When our paths occasionally cross at events, there's a mutual respect that never existed during our marriage. Curious how sometimes we need to separate to finally see each other clearly, isn't it? Nervous? Marco asks as we walk hand in hand down the convention center hallway. In a few minutes, I'll be introduced as the keynote speaker at the largest global technology conference, the same stage where Richard shone for years with words I wrote. Marco squeezes my hand gently, his touch conveying everything we've built together this past year. Mutual admiration, genuine partnership, a love that grows in the fertile soil of authenticity. Strangely, no, I smile, feeling a calm that comes from the certainty of being exactly where I should be. There's no teleprompter waiting for me, no meticulously prepared speech, just me, my experiences, my ideas, authentic, imperfect, true. When my name is announced, I walk onto the stage to applause. The spotlight, once daunting, now feels welcoming. I adjust the microphone and look out at the audience of 5,000 people. My name is Sophia Miller, and this is my story. The words flow naturally, born not of strategic calculation, but of lived truth. It's incredible how finding our own voice is, ultimately, the greatest revolutionary act we can perform. And you, have you found yours?